Hello, how are you? This is Andrew with ADS, and today I'm chatting about this book that I'm writing. And so it is a memoir of sorts, all about my time in Scotland. I spent a year working overseas, covering a global branding role, and got to live in Scotland for a year before I came here to Atlanta 3 years ago. And I've been meaning to write this book. So some of you have heard me say that here before. However, I take it very seriously because the marketer in me says, this can't be a book just about you and what you saw and what you experienced. I mean, that's what my social media was for while I was there. The marketer in me says, what is this book for and how will it help someone out there? And what is the main message that we want people to get from it? And so I'm diving into this world of book writing and memoirs and fiction writing as well. You know, like what makes a good fiction story, and even movies and just storytelling in general, just like kind of deep diving into that, which is fantastic for me because marketing, a large part of content marketing anyway, is the art of crafting a story, but doing it for the purposes of a book and for memoirs and all that is just an entirely different realm. And so I'm learning so much, and I've been watching people like Sarah Cannon and a few others that I like, who are advisors to those who are authors and wanting to be self-published authors and that kind of thing. I can't say I set out to write this book because I wanted to be a published author per se. It's just that the book is in me. Like many of us have a story within us and we just really want to share it, but we're so busy and all of this. I had a client who challenged me to get this done. It just happened to come out in conversation, you know, regarding dreams and goals and where we want to go and our passion areas. And one of the things I said was I really want to write this book about how Scotland changed my life, and it did in so many ways. So, like I said, I'm learning so much about this space of writing a book and writing a memoir specifically. And I learned so far that a memoir is quite different from, it's not the same as an autobiography, you know, and I could see how some people may, you know, twist that up. But autobiographies are more reserved for like the rich and famous, or people who have a real reason to be remembered because they're, you know, so widely known for whatever they did. People want to hear about their whole life from beginning to end. And so truthfully, it's really usually done towards the very end of someone's life. You know, their final senior years is when an autobiography is typically done. A memoir, however, hones in on a specific time in your life. It usually covers a specific topic, answers a specific question. And so it allows the reader to peer into that space in your life and extract a lesson from that for themselves. It helps them to change their perspective about something or whatever. And so that's really like the goal of what I wanted to do with this book about Scotland, is talk about how really Scotland changed my life in so many ways, not just like physically, like shedding 20 pounds and all this. I think a lot of people may lose weight going overseas. You know, I was not there for the military and all that, or teaching English in Korea or anything like that, like I hear a lot of people do. I was a pedestrian when I was there, so I have, you know, this pedestrian angle I want to cover about how that changed my life in terms of like viewing your body as your vehicle and needing to feed it proper fuel and really take care of it. I mean, like you're walking with your feet. Like it was very different to do that and not have a car. Like I did not have a car allowance in my job thing because the public transportation was so good. But there is so much walking, you know, so the culture is a walking culture, and you know, I have so many stories to share there and enlightenments about you know, how that really changed my life. You know, because for example, in the US, we're in such of this culture that if you're not banging it out in a boot camp and dripping sweat and dying and super sore the next days and all this, you're not trying hard enough. You're not doing enough really, and that may be somewhat true, given that we're such a sedentary culture. So I always poo-pooed the walkers in my head. I was like, walking, that's nothing. You're never going to get anywhere with walking. You're never going to reach your goals doing walking. And I was shot down so wrong over there. I'm not going to share all my weight loss stories and all that about, what happened to Scotland there. But just as an example, that's one thing of many that was enlightening, paradigm shifting, changed my life in so many ways. The way that people in the UK and otherwise view the US. And at that time, Obama was our president, and he was actually very well loved there. Surprise. Unlike our current president, not to talk politics, but it's a fact, he's just not a popular president, not only here, but also overseas. And so I'll leave it at that. That's facts, not opinions. But it was amazing to hear at the time, people's politics, and also about guns, because they don't have guns there. It is not a gun culture like it is here in the US. So you never heard about, shootings and people dying from shootings and someone killing their wife because of, they got pissed off at her and shot her in the head. You know what I mean? You just didn't hear about that stuff because it didn't exist. Carrying a knife on your person walking down the street is a crime. You're not even allowed to have a weapon like that. Talk about concealed weapons. So, it was so different that people even they even said the word murder so dramatically. And so and imagine Scottish accents, so the word murder was murder. I can't even do it right, but it was people were murder, it was crazy to hear about that, so they're astonished, anytime a mass shooting happened in the US while I was overseas, it was such a big deal and everyone was asking me about it, and they were all wanting to know, why is America like that? And, why is it so prevalent? And they were talking to me about, I remember one coworker talking to me about how she has little girls and was considering, taking a job over here in the US, but her girls were so afraid to come here because they were what is our life going to be like? Are we going to have to wear vests walking down the street or whatever? Which are all valid questions because it's so different from the culture, that we live in. So it's not all about guns and weight loss. And so it's all to say that the point of view matters and the ultimate messaging matters. And that's what I'm trying to get through, as I'm thinking about plot. So plot is a big part of this too, thinking about the plot of your book, even though it's based in truth, and a memoir is your own truth of how things went down in your world in this section of time that you're choosing to share. So one YouTuber taught me to look at your book in terms of acts. Like a movie, there's Act 1, Act 2, and Act 3, and the bulk of the book is Act 2. Act 1 is setting up the whole story. It's setting the stage, it's setting the players, it's setting the actors, all of that, and it's introducing the conflict and your hero, heroine, and your antagonist, and all of that. And then at some point, there's a point of no return that sets the whole journey in motion. So your main character, which you have to view yourself, because a memoir is about yourself and your own experiences, view yourself as your own character. And so you're in this weird space of trying to portray yourself as a character or also being the narrator of the story. So the narrator may know some things that happen in the book that the character doesn't know about yet, so you have to strategically choose what and when you share critical information and why. And all of this is towards the end goal of the book, where you're really trying to get to, the final scene is where key decisions are made, or, the case of fiction where the final battle happens, as Sarah Cannon says, or where, something major happens in Act 3 that really talks about the transformation of that character, how that character changed. And what else is so, did not expect this. I'm telling you to not expect this getting into this book journey whatsoever. But it talks a lot about, I'm listening to people who are specialists in memoirs and all of this, and about how important it is to be so vulnerable in your journey, be truthful, honest, vulnerable, even about your own flaws, because just as other characters in your book will have different points of view, and they'll have their own flaws and things that they did, and and all of that, and they're not perfect. It's a very boring book to view yourself as extra perfect, as if you are flawless and all this, which was never my intent either. Because I think that makes for, I definitely agree, off the bat without knowing anything, that absolutely makes for the most boring book ever. Like, no one wants to hear about how perfect you are. That's just the most boring thing ever. But if you, the character, are exposing some of your own personal internal struggles that you're dealing with, your own weaknesses, your own flaws, your own mindsets that you're fighting against, and why, if you can show that any form of that transformation in this process, it's called a character arc. How your character, if no one's ever described this, but my gist of what a character arc is the journey your character takes in terms of their own self-growth and their own self-progression, how they won some internal battle within them, how they changed because they were forced to, they had to, and they changed something about themselves that they never wanted to, or they had a fear about. It's exposing a deep wound that you have within you from your own past that caused you to fear, that caused you to act the way that you do, and somehow you overcome that through this journey. And there's so many rules about this, not rules, but guidelines and tactics and strategies. Also, if you choose to make your memoirs a series, which I thought about too, because it's ongoing. I do think my own life is so very interesting. I do, unlike many people who there are a lot of people who are like, my life is boring. I never felt like my life was boring. I'm always like, oh my gosh, I can't believe this is happening. I always feel like that all the time, sincerely, 99% of the time. And so there's a point where Scotland ends. I had an engagement. I was engaged to someone that I met overseas, beautiful, handsome Navy guy. He was not there for the Navy. He was overseas doing a job also in Saudi Arabia. He's American from Texas, a brother from Texas. Very handsome, very good looking, all that, So we ended up getting engaged by the time ultimately a little bit after I came to Atlanta. And then, should I give away my plot here? Let me not share my whole entire story. Obviously, clearly I may not be engaged now. So all that to say, there's so many angles to take this from. Is my memoir really about a bit of a romance? Is it kind of like a eat, pray, love angle where you're a little bit talking about the change your character experiences because of the travel and the different environment they're in and the lessons they're learning? I think a prominent theme definitely in this book is going to be minimalism, and how I learned to be a minimalist and to let all this materialism go. It was just so ingrained in us. It was ingrained in me. We were always out, shopping. What did we do for fun? We went shopping. Even if it was for inexpensive things, it's just the fact that you came home with this new nice scarf, or you came home with this thing, or whatever, and it just, something new made you feel good. And being there with all my worldly possessions in storage forever and ever, and just living out of two big suitcases really, and what I had to work off of, for work. And that was it, in a meager apartment that had basic furnishings already established. I really learned to be a minimalist and to enjoy life. Really, when you went to the grocery store, I promise I'm ending this up because I get carried away. It's true, you know this by now. I have the longest videos in this group, and I'm trying not to. I'm really trying not to. So, in any case, even when you go shopping, the shops close at 6 o'clock at night at the latest. That's one day of the week on a Thursday. That's their late night. It's because people are like, I got to go home too. I got to eat dinner too. Just such the different culture. And so, in any case, you're a pedestrian, so you can only, I have this wonderful scene. I'm definitely I hope that it makes sense to put this in this book about going out, and I was still in my materialism phase, but I definitely just wanted to make this space, even though it had like furnishings in it already and all that. It just wasn't like, it didn't feel like home. It didn't feel like me yet. So I just wanted just a few things, just a few small decor things, some which I brought to this space here that I'm in now. That was like, you bought this, so it's you, and this is Andrea, and this is a part of you, and and it made it feel like home, So just a few decor things, little mirrors, vases, some pillows, throws, things like that, just to warm the place up. And I remember having all that stuff. I was running around like a mad woman before the store closed because I didn't realize they closed so soon. Like here, you could at least go to a store till 9, 10 o'clock, a lot of nights. This place was shutting down at 6. I was like, geez, what the world, And anyway, so like I was running around like a mad woman getting all this stuff and getting everything, those pillows and little tchotchkes and vases and, as much as I could like carry in this little basket. And I took it all to the counter and I checked out as usual like I would at home. And I got out on the street and I realized, idiot, you have no car. Like, what are you gonna do? Like I was so far away from like a bus station and I was like, right, I'm gonna call a cab. Well, I did call a cab and it was gonna be a 45-minute wait because it was a football night, football meaning soccer over there. And so the city was shut down. It's a big football town. And so I was like, right, I'm just gonna grab dinner, relax, grab dinner with all this pile of crap I just bought, my materialistic American self bought. I'm gonna sit here with all this crap here and eat dinner by myself. And I did, so there's moments filled like this, where I really learned and taught myself that all this stuff doesn't really mean a lot. And last thing about the minimalism thing, I remember coming back home to the US and opening that storage unit and looking at that huge, it had to be like, I forgot what the standard sizes for storage units are, but it had to be like a 10 by 25. It's one of those big, long, semi-size storage units because I got everything out of a 3-bedroom house basically into the storage unit. So it had lots of stuff in there, furniture and all this, and I was downsizing to this tiny little apartment here. I was moving from Columbia, South Carolina. I was in Scotland and then moving my stuff from Columbia here to Atlanta and to a tiny 1-bedroom apartment, truly like almost a studio. And, I was really looking at all that crap like, geez, woman, why do you have all this crap? You do not need this crap. This is too much on you. Get rid of it. And I really did go through that phase of getting rid of crap and everything. So anyway, the story ends in Scotland. I think I'm ending it when I come back over here. The point is I have so many angles to choose from. But I really feel like it's going to be my version of like a Eat, Pray, Love. I've not even seen that movie or read it, but I did listen to Elizabeth Gilbert when she came to speak in Charleston not too long ago, and I was there for like a panel. I was not the keynote, she was the keynote, but I was there for a small panel the next day and got to listen to her, and I loved her tips so much. I included them in a video on my business channel because I do have like lots of authors I work with too. Ironically, now I'm attempting to become one myself, but again, really just because there's a story, like Elizabeth says, there's a story in me I have to get out. And it's just there and I have to get it out. And whether anybody reads it or doesn't, I know I have to do it for myself. So boom, there it is. And now I am making myself shut up. I am out of here. Hope you have a lovely evening, morning, afternoon, whenever you see this. Thanks so much for watching. Of course, you can subscribe to my personal channel, which is Miss ADS08, Andrea D. Smith. You can find me there, or my business channel, the ADS Agency. And those are my 2 handles everywhere. Miss ADS08 is my personal everywhere, and the ADS Agency is my personal everywhere. So you can follow those wherever you like. If you so like, I would very much appreciate that. And if you are watching this on YouTube, please do like this video and subscribe. The button is below. I would very much appreciate that. All right, people, cheers. Love you. Have a great one. Mwah.